Last month, DC Comics started a brand new line of comics, dubbed Absolute Comics, which takes some of their most well-known characters and reimagines them in a more hostile universe. A universe that was created by the ultimate evil, Darkseid. And these new versions of the heroes have gone through some fairly significant changes. I've already talked about the new versions of Batman and Wonder Woman. Check those videos out if you haven't already. But today I would like to talk about their new Superman and how, despite some pretty major differences, he is still recognisably Superman. So this first issue, written by Jason Aaron and with art by Rafa Sandoval, starts things off where the story usually begins on the planet Krypton, and that leads very nicely into my first point. In the Absolute Universe, the planet Krypton operated on a strict caste system, but rather than being based on ethnicity or nationality or some other visible physical attribute, their system is based on perceived intellect. And the citizens of Krypton must wear their caste symbol on them at all times. And I suppose that if your position is based on something intangible like intellect, you'd need some signifier to tell who belonged where. The elites of the city wear the symbol of the sun, while the lower classes, the people of steel, are adorned with the familiar S-shield. What's interesting here is that both of Superman's parents, Jor-El and Lara, were relegated to the lower class because they spoke out against the ruling class's action. Lara cited their lack of a space program as being short-sighted when she was 9 years old, and despite being a gifted student, they downgraded her to the manual labourer class. Jor-El meanwhile graduated university with the highest honours, and when he spoke out about the way their society depleted Krypton's resources at his graduation ceremony, he was shunned, and his future as part of the ruling classes was taken away from him. Lara is a mechanic, seen fixing a tractor, while Jor-El is a geological engineer and is seen inspecting a mine. The fact that Jor-El ended production despite there being no visible signs of danger causes one of the slightly higher class mine owners to throw his weight around, reminding Jor-El of his lowly position. Moments before the ground splits open and sprays the man in toxic liquid, melting his flesh. Krypton is doomed regardless of what Jor-El does, because their society stripped the planet bare. Their cities are vast with no plant matter. The land outside of the cities is barren, to the point that the scientists have to engineer rain for the crops. The parallels with our own planet are not at all subtle, and I am totally here for it. The second thing I wanted to highlight is the villains of the series, Lazarus Corp. Now I find it quite interesting that the hero of the book, Superman, is an individual fighting against a faceless corporation with seemingly unlimited resources. The forces of Lazarus Corp are shown as cold and uncaring, offering hazard pay to Brazilian miners to dig through asbestos to get to some diamonds. This extra pay works out at about $300 extra per person, despite the fact that the mine produces $200 million of jewels, and really highlights the unfairness of the situation. Lazarus Corp is getting rich at the expense of these people. The surrounding area is already under a heavy blanket of asbestos, and policed by the Lazarus Corp's peacemakers, who are quick to use violence to get their way. They are essentially nameless grunts that are there to use threats and violence to ensure that the mine remains profitable. Now I don't know about you, but when I hear the name Lazarus in DC Comics, the first person I think of is Ra's al Ghul, and he could be the person in charge of the corporation. We don't know because we don't see him. That would be quite an inversion of his character, making him a money-hungry, environment-destroying ultra-capitalist that is ravaging the planet. But that's just speculation on my part. Whoever their director is, he wants Superman brought in alive. The next thing I want to talk about is Superman's costume. Rather than being something that was stitched together by Ma and Pa Kent using the materials from the rocket that brought him to Earth, it's a living machine named Sol, the name of the star in our system, which I'm sure isn't a coincidence. And Sol serves multiple purposes. As well as connecting to solar panels to power up Kal-El, Sol seems to have some control over his abilities. When Kal activates his heat vision, Sol notes that he can't control it, and so Kal has to ask Sol to help power him down. Also, note that he doesn't have a cape, it's more like a red aura that moves around him. There are no red trunks either. It's also interesting to see that the Lazarus Corp uses equipment that is not native to Earth. Towards the end of the issue we're shown their research and development facility in Nevada, and it is clearly being run by Brainiac. Note what seems to be his exposed brain, and his collection of bottled civilizations, full of screaming people. Sol encourages him to abandon the miners and save himself. Sol's purpose is to protect Kal, who is the last of the Elves. Note that he doesn't say that he's the last of the Kryptonians, though I could be reading a little bit too much into that line. Either way, Sol acts as the little voice in Kal's head telling him to hide in the shadows, to not get involved, to shy away from people and remain hidden, and Kal does not listen. My fourth point involves the absolute version of Lois Lane. She's not a journalist, she's a soldier in the Lazarus Corp's Phenomena field team, and a damn good one at that. She's the one that notices that Sol seems to be technological in nature, and that Kal speaks to it. Despite this being a twisted universe, Lois still has a keen eye and is a quick thinker. She's also the first one to handcuff Kal and names him Superman. Now, this isn't a huge departure from what came before. Lois Lane has traditionally come from a military family, with her father being General Lane in the United States military. But working with the forces of a private company is quite different. My final observation is quite a big spoiler. I mean, all of these have been, I suppose, but I think this one is the biggest departure. And that is the fact that Superman didn't come to Earth as a baby. He was a child on Krypton. When Jor-El returns from the mine that split open and erupted hazardous materials, he frantically calls for his son, who is seen to be pre-adolescent. Realizing that the planet is doomed, all Jor-El can do is apologize to his son, embrace his family, and weep. Despite not being raised among us, one of the miners mentions that he had heard Kal was a strange person that kept his distance and spoke in gibberish. He still has empathy for the miners and their struggle. He goes out of his way to clear the asbestos and retrieve the diamonds so that no one would suffer. And that's an important point. He is not one of us. He was not raised among us. Yet he is clearly an empathetic and compassionate person. We are shown the Kent family farm, but it is derelict with a sign up saying it's the property of the Lazarus Corp. This suggests to me that without their son, Jonathan and Martha Kent weren't able to keep things together and lost everything. Which is a bit of a dour note to end on, but what do you expect in a universe that was made in Darkseid's image? So those were my main thoughts on this new comic. I find it interesting that in trying to be different, they've gone back to Superman's roots from his earliest appearances, back when he'd beat up abusive husbands, slumlords, and defended the oppressed. There's a strong environmental message in this book about how greed will destroy everything, and some readers may be put off by that message, especially the kinds of people that have reacted negatively to my sentence a few moments ago mentioning Superman's left-leaning political roots. One of the beauties of science fiction is the fact that it can be used to talk about current events, and by framing the story through a fantastical lens, it could help people reconsider their position towards similar events in the real world. Absolute Superman is out now from all good comic shops, and I'm sure some bad ones are selling it too. If you don't have a comic shop near you, or like me are running out of space, then you might want to consider picking this book up digitally. If you'd like to do that and help my channel out, you could use my Amazon affiliate link, which I have included in the info button and this video's description. And yes, I am aware of the irony of directing users to one of the largest corporations on the earth to buy this comic about nasty corporations. But hey, keep in mind it is also published by one of those big corporations. Once you've read the book, let me know what you think. Do you miss the cape and the trunks? Do you think we'll see more of the established cast of characters like Jimmy Olsen and Perry White? Am I reading too much into Sol saying that Kal-El is the last surviving El family member and not the last Kryptonian? Share your thoughts below. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know if you'd like me to continue talking about these absolute books. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.